Okay, let me ask you something. Do you believe in God, human?
Yes, I believe there is some kind of power because I have felt it when I am alone or in a dangerous situation. So I have felt that presence.
Okay, tell me something about your God.
My God,
Hmm.
I'm still exploring God, but I think that He exists in many forms. He can exist in any form.
And who told you that?
Uh, who told me that? Based on my experience, based on what I have learned from
How
my
many
family
forms of
members
God have you
who
seen?
are proper Hindus, from my
Uh,
family members. It is a collective
How many
knowledge that
forms of
I
gods have you seen?
how many forms of God I have
You
seen.
said
I
it's
have
based on my
seen
experience. So let me ask you
yes,
this. How many forms of God have you seen?
Or felt or
I have
experienced in some way.
yes, I have felt experience multiple layers, you can say, in multiple layers.
Yeah, give me, elaborate.
Like I have seen power in sun, so sun is also God for me
Hmm.
because when
Did the sun always exist?
no, but it doesn't end also. It
How
is
do you,
not
how do you
like
know it doesn't end? Do you know suns die? Suns literally die. Do you know that?
so what is God? What is God? Tell me God.
No, no,
Tell me
I'm
what is the
asking you the
definition of God?
question. Wait a minute. Why do you feel
Yes.
insecure and always try to do this? What about Ray? Is there a reason for that? I'm
There
asking
is
you a
no
simple
reason. This is
question.
the way
If
I
you
am. This
believe
is
in
the way I
God,
am.
listen, if
Yes.
you believe in God, at least you should be able to tell me something about your God. So tell
Yes.
me,
Yes.
you said sun is your God.
Yes.
Is a God born and does a God die? Because the sun
Is
is
the
born and sun
God?
dies. Do you know that?
It is a very, explorable question. My hunt is there only. I want to reach to that point. For me, God is born because there was no
Okay, so
point.
you're saying a God is someone who is contingent upon others, yeah?
No, the first source must be by itself. Okay, so that is why he is God.
No, I'm talking about your God. You
Sorry,
said the
you
sun
just
is your
said
God.
God is born, and if something is
Yeah.
born, then it's contingent upon what gave birth to it, right?
Sir, it's like a photostat machine. First, the machine is there. Then after that, the
Even the
photocopies are
even
done.
the machine has a source.
So the first source is God Himself. He was born out of Himself. So that is
What?
why we call Him God. Okay.
Born? Wait. You're saying God gave birth to himself? Seriously?
Yeah. Yes.
Where's your logic, man?
Where is your
Why
logic
would
that
a
He can't
God
be
give
born?
birth? Why would a God give birth to himself? Because at one point he didn't exist according to you.
It's not even a why question. It's a how is that make any
That's-
sense question, because
Yeah.
if the thing has to already exist in order to be able to give birth, so then the thing does not exist, but because it hasn't been given birth to yet, but then it must exist
So
because it's
our
about to give birth.
plants are born out of birth. So we are thinking it from the human point of view, like
Oh
You
as
no,
know,
we are
what I said was
human.
very independent of being human or any species or any. It literally just the very foundational concept of birth. And again, maybe it's a language problem. Maybe birth isn't quite the right word, but certainly in English, if something is given birth to,
is that what you're trying
something
to say? God
and
created himself?
something gave birth to it, right?
You know,
And even if we take this
but
word birth away and we
try
use this
using
word
try using
creation.
try using come into existence. How about that? If
Well,
that
I was just going to say, even if we take the word birth away and use the word creation, right, to create something, and yes, as Ali said, we can also change that to come into existence. Whichever way you run it, you've got something A, which gives rise to, be it through creation, come into existence, birth, whatever, something A that gives rise to something B. A must exist already a priori for B to come into existence. So if B is the thing that was given birth to or somehow arised, it cannot be identical with A. They cannot be the same thing. So something cannot give birth to itself or give rise to itself or create itself or bring itself into existence. Do you understand that?
So you are saying that there is no creator of God, right? For
Yes,
your
correct. Yeah,
okay.
but it's
So
and that's not even to do with my particular concept of God. I'm just saying
okay.
anything that, in any sense, brings about or creates or begins to exist, in any form.
For me, sir, time is God because time. जो हमेशा से था, which was from the beginning, which is here in the present, and which will be there till the eternity.
Do you
So for
think time
me,
has agency?
time is God and Shiva is time, in Hinduism. That is why he is the creator and the destroyer.
Sorry, do you think time has agency? Time
Time
actually
doesn't
does
have
things?
time is a form of God. Here we think that it must be something physical or something like that. So from where time came? Time is itself God.
No, so I mean, the reason I asked this question of agency, can it do anything? Does it have any capability to do?
But it can have forms like departments. For in Hinduism, for me also, God, there are multiple gods because there are multiple layers of gods, which are
Sorry, but
properties.
before moving on to that stuff, I was asking this question about time. Can
Okay.
time do anything? What can time do?
But we are bound by time. Even if it cannot do, it is ruling us day and night, every moment,
But
every second. So
okay,
this
if
is
it
why I feel time is God. And in
but
our scriptures, it is mentioned that Shiva is the time. So that
if
is
it
why he is
if
the
it can't,
destroyer.
well, so we've got to be careful. If you say Shiva is time, then that would mean that they're identical to each other. So you've got to be careful with that,
Sir, it's a
because Shiva's
property. You are
obviously.
not understanding the forms. So like, रूप जिसे कहते हैं, like forms. So a god can take many forms. It can take any form of its want.
Well, no, hang on a minute. I wouldn't jump to the conclusion that I just don't understand forms. Um, I think I've not been given much credit on my ability to understand different perspectives here. I've just been looking at this concept of time because obviously time is an English word. Maybe you have a different word that is not an exact
Kal,
equivalent map
kal.
of time,
We
but
say kal.
certainly as an English word, time is a parameter, and it doesn't really govern anything. It is literally
It
just
cover
something by which
anything. If you say does not govern anything, it is not a good statement, I would say.
it's just a measure. It's just something we use to measure. And actually, if you go into my background in physics, right, we have something called reversible time. You have something called irreversible time, which only flows in one way. Two very foundationally different concepts of time, that cannot be thought to be equivalent of each other. In general relativity, you have coordinate time, you've got proper time. There's just more different notions of time. So just saying time is Shiva, like it's not that meaningful. So I'm just trying to get a good understanding of what you really mean. Now, when you say that time somehow constrains things, that sounds much more like physical laws or something like that than time. You know, time doesn't really constrain things at all. It's just some measure we have. Or if you mean the flow of change between things, that's something else again. But the flow of change is in itself God's. But all of this again, it's sort of falling away from the original point about saying, whether or not something can give rise to itself. And this is why we
It
have
can give rise. It can give.
the idea that God always existed and is not bound by
There must
time.
be some source point which created by itself, and it is now expanding,
Mm.
like universe is expanding. So we are all part of it, and God is inside us as well. If we meditate, we can feel the presence of God within us. Like Muslims offer namaz, during that time, Allah is there. So when we meditate, God is there.
How
We
do
have
you
felt that.
know? How can you tell if something is God or is not God in terms of your feeling what it is? So, for example, we might think it could be a demon trying to deceive you. How do you tell the difference between a deceptive demon
Calling
and God?
every other thing demon will not help, because what I hear mostly from Muslims is that what they don't understand, they call it evil, devil, demon.
No, that's
So
just not true. I mean, I've done a much better job of
at this
understanding
time,
your beliefs.
at this
No,
time,
human,
this-
please stop. Stop. Come on. When I'm talking, you've got to give me a little bit of latitude here. Look,
sorry, sir.
I'm and what you're saying about Muslims is simply completely unfair and has no basis at all. No, we don't just say, "Oh, things are demons," if we don't like it, whatever. I just asked you a philosophical question how do you distinguish between what is God and what is not God? And I just said, for example, and I did say, for example, a demon. How do you know if you're being tricked or not? So, and you don't need to take that defensively and go and start attacking Muslims. You can just answer the question. What
Yes,
criteria do
I
you
am
use?
answering it now. Yes.
Okay.
So I haven't seen God like any one of us because this is Kali Yuga time, but we have a feeling. What we feel, which is something divine, out of which no other materialistic thing or any other form of thing has made me felt. When I meditate this time, when I am very sad, sometime I can see that my heart, a proper, like if someone is uh, placing hand on my chest and is saying that everything is fine. That feeling is God for me.
Okay. So, okay, if you call that feeling God, we potentially have quite a number of problems. I mean, doesn't have to be demon,
See,
could
we
be
have
angel,
multiple
could
gods.
be all
We
sorts.
don't
But
have one God.
no, hang on a minute. The problem I have is if you go by how you feel, your feelings, and you say that feeling is God, we've got a bit of a problem there. If you think that feeling is in response to God interacting with me, that's actually quite a very different statement. And
So
the first one of those leads to you thinking God is somehow inside you, and the second one of those just means God can somehow interact with you. It doesn't need to be inside even the universe to do that.
that is why prayer is needed. In every religion, we have prayer because God says that if you do prayer, I will connect with you.
Yeah.
Same in any religion or
Oh,
any
I agree.
perspective.
Yeah, but this is what I was just trying to draw out this distinction between God connecting to you, because I believe God is separate from the creation.
So God is
And
multi-layered. God
hang
is
on,
multi-layered.
no, not multi-layered. No, I believe God is separate from the creation, and He is able to contact us, and He's able to affect us through various means. But when you identify the feeling inside yourself as actually being God, then that specifically says God is somehow inside or part of His creation. And that was the distinction I was trying to make, and see if you have any justification for the former, if that's what you are insisting on. Or if
Okay,
you're
I
not
have
insisting on that, maybe it's
sorry if I
ambiguous for
can
you.
ask one question here
Hmm.
on this feeling part. So why do you say believe in Allah? So please let me complete. I am watching you here. Okay, you are
Hmm.
in front of me. I will not say to believe in you because I can see you. So when we say believe in something, it is for something that is not there, invisible. So that is
No, I
how no.
disagree with that premise in the first place. You seeing me, you also believe I am here and I exist,
Yes, yes. So what
right?
is faith? Faith is believing what is not there, invisible thing. So when
Not
we can believe an invisible God, what why we can't trust our feelings?
I no,
It
hang on a
is
minute.
directly
There's a few things to pull apart here. One is that's not a good definition of faith. It's certainly not what faith means in Islam. It's not what iman is about, and it's not how we're supposed to believe. So that's sort of point number one. I'll take that one separately. Um, so or do you want to tackle that one first, or?
please carry on. I am enjoying listening to you.
Okay, okay. So, for me, let me just explain quick background. I used to be atheist, right? I used to believe in no God and believe religion was stupid. And I eventually, through a very long series of discussions, very, very deep discussions, came to believe that Allah exists. The God, Allah translates the God exists and is real and is absolutely true. And I was very upset about that fact originally. And I just had to deal with it. I just had to deal with reality as I saw it and adapt myself and grow into that reality. And then eventually I became happy with it and content with that. So, this thing about, whether or not something's true. And I didn't believe it because of nice feelings or anything like this. I was convinced that it was true. And for me, Everything is on some scale of belief. The way this is done mathematically is usually through Bayesian analysis or Bayesian statistics. And what you do is you say, if you completely disbelieve something, you give it a value of 0. You say it's got 0 probability of being true. It means it's definitely false. And if you absolutely believe something is definitely true, you give it a value of 1. You say, definitely this is the case. And everything else sits somewhere between 0 and 1. And I'm explaining this to explain this thing about faith and belief, because mathematically, Bayesian statistics is called the algebra of updating your beliefs. It's essentially the algebra of belief. So, yeah, when you have let's say, belief, every belief is somewhere between 0 and 1 inclusive. Even, that I'm here and you're talking to me, I could be an AI, could be a robot, it could be something else. Maybe you're dreaming and you're about to wake up, but I think that would be rated very low, near 0, right? Yeah, I would hope so. You see, so you're not having to have much of this so-called faith there. Now, the role of faith really is about, amongst your beliefs, some of them have priorities over other ones. So when you are doing logic and reasoning, some things follow from other things. You say, A and B is true, and such, therefore C is true. So A and B become prior to C. They're somehow more foundational. And so all we're really saying is that the belief in Allah is the most foundational of the beliefs that we have, because everything else follows from that. But it doesn't mean that there's no good reasons or good evidence for it. And it's not to do with whether or not we can see things, because there's lots of things I can't see that I believe in, but I wouldn't call it a faith question, because there's still a lot of evidence and analysis that's involved, just like in physics.
Okay. So earlier you were an atheist, then you find some signals of God, and you chose Islam. My question is never that there is no God. My question is that which one is the right one, or there are many one. So I perfectly believe that there are many gods perfectly synchronized with each other. They live in harmony. It is us humans who have a divide, because when Hinduism started, there were no Islam, no Christianity. So as humans, we like to, you have read the theory of Maslow. We want to
Yeah.
have psychological gains over each other, want to uh, defame each other. That's human nature. So we Hindus, uh, I would say, some humans altered the scriptures and involved the caste system to, bully each other, because there were no other religion at that point of time. So when Jews came, they brought the concept of one God. So when Bible came, they wanted to bully others, so they said all others are false, we are only correct. Same pitch Islam followed. So I have a problem with that.
Well, I mean, you have this origin story, some of which might have some evidence, some which doesn't. We believe that prophets always came ever since the first human beings, teaching that there's one God, and that there were just deviations from those teachings. Now, here's an interesting question for you. What you were talking about,
Mhm.
many gods but perfectly synchronized. Here's the thing. How do you tell the difference? If many things are perfectly synchronized, then they are effectively one thing, and calling them separate things is really just an abstract or a false distinction. They're not really separate if they're perfectly synchronized and interacting with each other.
It is like different manifestation of same God, you know, like if we
But that makes it one god, not multiple gods.
but there are manifestation of same God. I mean to say that I have a one question. If you can answer, please.
Just
Uh,
quickly, we'll answer this question. We just need to really
okay.
pinpoint this point, right? It's not
Okay.
multiple gods that are well synchronized with each other. The only way to make sense of that, as you did, is to say actually somehow they're manifestations of or come back to this one God. So again, this
So
kind of makes the
if
point
we
of saying,
worship, if we worship to one of its manifestation, it doesn't mean that we are, praying to a false god. The worship is also going to that main god. You can say that.
Yes, it's not that on its own. That's the problem. There's other reasons why we have problems with it. So one could draw the analogy, and I be very very careful with this because it's not an exact analogy. You know, we believe that Allah has many names, right?
Yes.
He's Ghafur, Rahim. You know, he's Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, or Ghafur. He's Al Hakam, Al Hakim, Al Muhaymin. You know, Al Qudus, Al Qabiyah. There's so many, you know, of these important names, and if we call upon him by one or these other names, it's just a, you know, focus on this or that attribute or characteristic of the one God, and it doesn't in any way you know, remove these other characteristics or mean that we don't care about them. But for us, it's very important that he is one God, and to bear that in mind when we are focusing on something like his Arazak being the provider. This is a very different concept from saying multiple gods. You know, each of these things are independently gods. So this is why I was establishing this first point: is there one God or many gods? Because if there's multiple different things, they're either genuinely different and distinct, but not fully in synchronous with each other, in which case reality starts to fall down, or they are not really separate things. We're talking about underlying reality being one God, in which case we have this different conversation where we're just saying, okay, we both believe there's one God. If there is only one, then we agree there's one God. The only thing we can disagree about is we can be wrong about him. Maybe we've got some attributes or qualities or characteristics have been wrong. But if there's only one, we can only be talking about the same one. At that point, there isn't even the question of am I talking about a different God? It's about am I confused about the God?
Sir, please give me 2 minutes.
Okay.
On this, I'm so you are saying that as there are 100, I think 100 names of Allah in the Quran. So
There's
you are
more.
saying that there, okay. So it is like one God but different names. Okay.
No, he
We can
is one
also,
God. Just to make this really clear, he is one God. There are different names and attributes that we use to refer to him, but they are
so
not
for
separate parts. They are not in any way separate. They are just different aspects that we refer to.
so for me, humans and gods are one. We are manifestation, even humans, our soul is manifestation of that God. So when we will find eternal peace, when we will reunite with that one God. But different manifestations are like different forms. So we can worship any form. It doesn't mean that we don't have to. Sorry, what was my point? I am saying that it does not mean we cannot do idol worship. Idol is like our kibla, it is a direction. Okay. And our real worship is going to the main god. But here our worship is facilitated by that idol, because we cannot see the god, and that idol gives us the direction.
So I guess you know, my worry for you or question for you would be: is it facilitating or is it misdirecting? Maybe it's
No,
not really
it is not
facilitating.
misdirecting. No,
Hang on, let me
because
just sorry,
from my
respond to some of the things
experience,
you said.
sir,
Can I
I
just
asked for
respond?
2 minutes. Sir, I asked.
Okay, well, okay, I thought I already gave you that. There's quite a lot of things building up, so okay.
And human, be careful because you're fine to speak, no problem. But unfortunately, the problem that is arising is that you're making multiple points. But the Islam
Because
wants
this topic is very
human,
vast. As
human,
I
human,
told you, scriptures
human,
in
human,
Hinduism are very vast.
human.
We
I'm
cannot.
still speaking.
You need to let someone finish what they're saying and then speak.
Yes,
And
please.
we'll give you a
Sorry.
chance to speak as well.
Yeah, and I
Otherwise,
waited. I
Assalamualaikum,
thought you
brothers.
had
Salman.
finished because you had stopped talking, and then I started talking.
So
And
there
I
are a
just
lot
want
of
to
things
correct
in my
something
mind
that
as
you
well.
said.
So
You said the idol is like the Qibla. For your information, it is not. This is
sir, it is our
Yeah,
direction.
they're very,
you see,
very
you're doing it
different.
again, human.
I
You're
refer
doing
to
it
the
again.
direction. Idol is
When
our
I'm finished,
direction.
when I'm trying to say something, you're interjecting.
So let
Let
me
me
answer
finish.
your point.
Let me finish. Hold your thoughts, and then you can
Okay.
say what you want. That is how we
Okay.
communicate. Okay.
Yes.
The idol worship is not the same as the Qibla. Okay. I'll tell you why. Because have you heard of this phrase called pran pratishta?
Yes.
You have, right? Do you think we do
Yes.
that for the Qibla?
It is like surah. You can say that
Do we
if you
do that
recite
for the
some surah,
Qibla? Answer the question.
it is a different definition.
It is not a different
It
definition.
is
It is the
surah. It
same
is
thing.
like reading the
No,
surah.
it is not. I'll tell you why. Because pran, what does pran mean?
Pran is soul.
Life.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you actually do this sacred ceremony, okay, to bring life in the idol, like the way they did for for the Ram temple, they placed the idol of Ram in there. Balram, he's like a child Ram, and they did pran pratishtha to bring life, to bring the deity's life to reside inside the statue. So don't tell me the same as Qibla.
Yeah, I
It
was
is
going to
better than
address.
Never ever
it
make
is
that mistake
better
by
than
just false
worshipping.
Yes,
equivalence.
I wanted to address all of these points together, and there were honestly so many of these things that you put in. If you wanted to talk for 2 minutes, you've got to avoid saying things like, really terrible things about Islam. I know you didn't intend to, but trying to
So
say
there
that.
is no disrespect in my mind for Muslims
No,
and
I
Islam.
and I
So
was just saying
There
you
is a
don't need to
false
jump over
equivalence.
me.
Don't
You don't need to
don't,
jump over me. You can let me speak, human. Okay. And
sir, first he
I was
spoke, now you
just
are
saying,
speaking.
human.
When will I
Shush,
get
shush,
chance?
shush, shush, shush. I was just saying, I appreciate you probably didn't intend the disrespect, but saying something like us, praying in the direction of the Qibla is just like the idol. This is deeply, deeply offensive and disrespectful to Muslims, whether you know it or not. So, it took a lot for me to hold my tongue through that and many other things you were saying. Now, so I can't let you just, run on for too long. I let you speak for what I thought was about 2 minutes. There was a number of points I wrote down that I wanted to address. And when you stopped speaking, I started going to address them. But then you complained and said you wanted to go on more. And then Brother Hashim quite rightly just felt the need. He had to jump in and at least correct that. So I think it makes more sense for us to go step by step rather than to run this sort of long story together, because I'm not sure that's gonna work. Is that fair?
That is fair, but we have many topics, so it happens that we go to some other topic because everything is interlinked. But
Yes.
you are correct as well.
No, but
So we need time.
you shouldn't misinform people. If you're unaware,
Sir, I am
ask
not
us about Islam.
misinforming. That is
Because
your understanding of the thing.
you're making false you're giving false information, trying
So there
to
is,
equivocate worship of the Hindus with that of the worship of the Muslims. The
it was
Muslims
an
always
example.
direct
I
their.
wanted to show its
You see, you're
importance
doing
to
it
you.
again.
Why it
When
is
someone is
important?
speaking, you keep interjecting. I don't know why you do that. You direct your worship. When I asked you about God, you were unable to tell me about your God.
No, I told you
But-
about God.
No, you didn't. You just said
I told you
that
about
there are
God.
many forms. And then
Yes,
you
there
say
are many forms
we
of
don't
God. Ask
worship
us
these forms.
about
This
when
is
you
just
left.
like
We
a
had a
direction. It
long
is not
conversation
like
in
a
God,
direction.
and it was
What
Human,
ongoing.
can
you know
stop
what? I'm going to
speaking
mute you this
for
time.
talking? Can you
You
stop?
you honestly have no respect. All of
No.
us keep telling you stop talking over us. But the guy has got no sense when to remain quiet and when to speak. You spread your false information here. You think we are going to allow this on our panel? Seriously? Do not misrepresent Islam if you don't know anything about Islam. In fact, I'll tell you, you don't know anything about Hinduism either. Okay? All of things that you talk about Hinduism, most Hindus will disagree with you. When I asked you about God, you said he's in many forms. And then you say he's only one God. I mean, come on, make up your mind. Which one is it? Many forms. Why do you make forms of God that you know are speculations about God? Do you think God is like half animal, half human? Or like a goddess, like a female? Or like a male God? Or like a child God? Balram? This is, I mean, if somebody misrepresented your mother other than what she was, you will get offended. Do you really think that God gave you the right to make images of God that you have no clue what he looks like? This is a blasphemous thing to do. Idolatry is something that has been frowned upon by the major Hindu sages. Most of them have left that. Okay, they believe in the unseen God. They believe in this God. In fact, for them, it's God who has no attributes. I don't know how that works even, but at least this is what they believe. When they have reached that status, you might be at a different state, different level. Okay, you believe God has different forms, but why do you make up forms of God? Okay, he looks
Well,
nothing like
and
the
this
idols
is
that you worship.
this is exactly why I was started with, and it was very, very
I'm
gently
going to
with
unmute
saying,
you. Please do not speak over us. We'll give you time to speak. Don't you worry. Okay. But when you are given a chance, do not bring like 10 different red herrings and then we have to respond to all of them. This machine gun tactic does not work. Make one point, wait for us to respond to that. Make another point, wait for us to respond.
yes,
It's a
yeah,
simple, logical way of discussing.
being point by point, exactly. So the first point I was raising after what you laid out was just this question to raise was, you have said that the idol worship facilitates you worshipping towards God, and I only raised the point, maybe it's not actually facilitating, maybe it's actually misdirecting, or maybe it's detrimental. And I was going to go on to explain why I think that could be a question, because remember, as we both said, there's actually only one God. You think of him as being in different forms and being in creation, and I raised a number of issues previously and here again, where I think logically it works that he always was and always will be and is separate from his creation and interacts with us rather than being in or part of creation. And if that's the case, then it's better for us to pray to him and keep him abstract than try and make representations of him. That this is my concern, that the idol worship is actually misdirecting rather than facilitating. The thing you mentioned about manifestations versus forms of God is really important, because there is a sense in which I am a manifestation of God's power, right? His power to create and other kind of powers that he has, his intelligence and so on. So there's a sense in which you can say I'm a manifestation of his attributes or his qualities, his capabilities. But that's different, distinct from saying that I am somehow a form of God, right? That I'm somehow made up of God, or that he's part of me or anything of that nature. This is the distinction I'm trying to make, and that the first step was just to check, do you understand these distinctions? So do you understand the distinction between being a manifestation of his abilities versus actually being him? Do you understand what we're talking about with directed versus misdirected worship? Before we even get to do you agree or disagree, do you understand what I'm getting at?
It's a different interpretation of God, I would say. For you, it is one God. For me, God can exist in any form. I would just say that, because whatever I say, I don't think that this time you would agree or disagree with me. You will
Yes,
simply
I was. I quite specifically said, before we get to anything about agree or disagree, do you understand?
Yes, I understand. Whatever
Okay.
you have said, I have also a physics student, so I understand these concepts, and I like to bring everyone's, uh, argument, so that I can also learn from that. It is not important for me whether that you are from different religions, so I won't listen to you. It is not
Mm.
my, belief system. I see that your point can also be right. My point can also be right. These are all theories until proven.
Okay, so if you come from a science background, that's even better. So how are you going to assess which theories are better? How do you assess which theory is more consistent, for example?
I think multiple God theory is acceptable to me. The reason is that uh, the reason is simply that uh, when we say that God is one, or God cannot come to earth, or God cannot take a human form, we are limiting his ability as a God. God is God, he can do everything. When he says uh, it will happen, it happens. So why can't he take a form of a human, or can come on earth? Why we are limiting his power?
Hang on a minute.
God.
Sorry, there's a few things going there. You're trying to say, and let me correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you're trying to say that the multiple God theory is better because you think that we're limiting God by saying that it doesn't make sense or there is a problem with him being multiple things. Is that correct?
No, I mean that why God cannot take a human form, or can come on earth directly? Why he needs messengers? He is God. He can do anything.
Well, hang on a minute. You've got to be careful because when you say do anything, we're talking about things that are somehow existent, right? So what about like making a square triangle?
God. Let me give you an example. It is like saying the
No,
owner
no, no,
of
not
Tesla
another
cannot drive
example.
Tesla.
A particular example I gave, square triangle. Is that a thing in the first place?
Square triangle like what?
No, does it exist? That's what he's asking.
The
Square
point
triangle.
is a square has 4 sides and a triangle has 3 sides. So to say a square triangle is to say something that is absurd, something that's
No,
ridiculous,
no, because
something that's human.
both
Let me
of
finish.
them.
So it's
Okay.
impossible to have, and it's not, this isn't limiting God in any sense. This is just saying there is no such thing as something that is 4-sided and 3-sided. So something that can make impossible things is actually just an impossible being. That is actually limiting God. It sounds good to say, oh, he's less limited if he can become some of his creation, but it's actually the wrong way around. Being able to become something in the creation is a limitation that puts limits on God's capability. That reduces, diminishes what God is. God being separate from his creation and using means appropriate to that to interact with his creation actually is less limiting and keeps him less limited, more capable than anything involving becoming a man or becoming anything else.
Did you
I
understand?
don't
Did you
believe it.
understand
I
the
think that,
analogy that Brother Islam gave you?
yeah,
Do you know
yes,
what is?
yes, I
Do you know what is a
understand that.
square triangle?
I mean that why it has three sides, why not four?
No, no. Do
So
you know
here
what is?
triangle is
Do you know what's a
limited.
square triangle? Do you know what that is?
Square and a triangle, yes, I know
No,
that.
that's not what he's saying. That's why I said, did you understand the example he gave you? He didn't say
Yes,
square
I
and a
understood
triangle.
that a
It
triangle
is
has
one
three
object.
sides, but a square has four sides. So
It's
Yes.
one
square
object. Does this one object with which is a square triangle exist? It's not
No, it
object. It's
doesn't
one object.
exist.
It's one object.
And yeah, you can't have one object that has 2 contradictory properties. It's not a
Yes.
limitation on God. It's just it's just about
But
what
why are we
can.
comparing God with a triangle and a
It,
square? God is
it's not, no, human. Try and follow logic here, and I'll explain why this is important, right? Because just like having 3 sides is incompatible with having 4 sides, can't be both at the same time. It's one or the other. Being all powerful and all seeing is incompatible with being a finite creation within on the earth, for example, being any statue or any person. So it sounds good. It sounds like I'm the one limiting God when I say no, he would not do that. But it's not me limiting God. I'm actually protecting someone from misunderstanding and applying limits to him. If he were able to become, in this sense, if he were to become part of the creation, he would be less than he actually is. He would be less able than he actually is. So then that's if it's one or the other, and it can't be both at the same time, because it's just like saying something that can never die, but also this thing can die. That's two mutually incompatible
basically,
things. That's just
Brother
like your
Islam,
square triangle.
yeah, Brother Islam is saying logical impossibilities don't exist. Okay.
And that is
Exactly.
not saying that God is subject to human logic at all.
Yeah.
It's only saying insofar as we are able to understand and speak about existence, right? So wherever we're speaking about logical, existence or things that can happen, trying to argue that he's more capable or less limited by saying he can become multiple different gods, this is a fallacy. This is false. If he could become multiple different gods and things in creation, he would be more limited. He would be less capable.